Today I've got a new Django project for you. We're going to build a conversion rate calculator application using HTML and JavaScript, and we're going to put that inside a Django application. So if you want to scale it up or add more functionalities, you can do that easily using the out-of-the-box tools and features brought to you by the Django admin system. So this is the final product, and it's fairly simple. So you have one currency here and it should be converted to other currency. So if we'll say that we have $1 and we want to convert it, let's say, to euro, all right, you get $1 is equal to 0.8345 euros. All right, you can swap that. So €1 is equal to $1.1983. You can also change the amount of conversion. So let's say that we have 500 euros, for instance. That would be equal to $599.15. All right. And the same thing, if you will click on swap, you will have $500 will be equal to $417.25. Okay. And that's basically it. And the conversion rate is not static, it's dynamic. It changes every day based on the day-to-day economic activities in the world. So for that, we will need an API, all right? And that's the one that we are going to use. So you will need to sign up in order to get an API key, okay? So get free key, okay? And you can create an account, just enter your email and your password, and we will need that API key in our JavaScript file. All right, and I will show you that in a few minutes. This is going to be a very quick tutorial. Obviously, you will find the code free to use in the GitHub repository. I'm going to leave the link in the description below, but I'm going just to give you a quick guidance on how to do things, how to render HTML pages in your Django project, and also how to include your JavaScript functionalities in your Django project. All right, so let's roll up our sleeves and get started. Okay, so go ahead and open your terminal or your command prompt, depending on your operating system. Let's go to desktop. And I'm going to create a folder, make dir, and let's call it, for instance, exchange. Obviously, you will need Django installed. So if you don't have Django installed on your machine, you can install it via pip install Django. But I will assume that you have it already installed, so let's go ahead and create our project. All right, good. Now let's create our app. So manage.py start app, and I will call it just app. Okay, great, and let's go ahead and open that using Visual Studio Code, and I'm using the command code dot in order to open Visual Studio Code automatically. All right, perfect. The first thing that I want to do is to go to settings.py, and I want to include my app inside installed apps. Just zoom a little bit, and let's include that here. So this is for the static files. Static folder is usually used for images, JavaScript, and CSS files. And if you have images, we can add them. So this is the URL for images, media underscore URL images. And I want also to add the path for my static folder. So static files underscore dirs is equal to os.path.join, and this is the base dir, all right, and the folder's name is static, all right, and be careful, don't forget the comma. All right, good. This is the first thing. The second thing we want to do is to go to URLs, and I want to add different lines here. So this is for the static files, for settings, and I want also to import views from our application. All right. So from app, which is the name of our application, we want to import views. Okay. Obviously, we didn't create anything in views yet. We'll do that just in a minute. From Django.conf, I want to import settings. and also from django.conf.urls.static, I want to import static. Cool, and we will need obviously our main route. But before that, let's go ahead and open our application. Let's go to views and let's create our views here. So I'm going to create a function. I'll call it index, and it takes a request as an input, as a parameter. And let me declare a variable called template, and this will be simply equal to index.html, which is the name of the HTML file that I'm going to create in just a few seconds. And we want to return, we will render request and the template. Render. Alright, and that's it. This is our views. Now the most important thing we need to do in our main application is to create two folders. One is called static, which will hold our JavaScript folder and our images folder. And the second folder we're going to create is called templates, and this is going to have our index.html file. Alright, so in app, I want to create static and templates. So inside static, I want a folder called images, and also another folder called JavaScript. And let me just drag the image that we're going to use here. And inside JavaScript, let's create script.js. This is our main JavaScript file. And in templates, I want index.html. And let me just make like that first. Load static. Alright, and this is the Django template language, which is very similar to Jinja in Flask. So let's just say h1 hello world, just to test things. Okay, fine. And let's go here in URL patterns and let's add a path or a route. And it's going to be an empty route, but you can do whatever you want. You can say app, for instance, or you can just leave it blank. And because we have imported views, so we will need index from views, so views.index. Alright, so let's go ahead and give that a run to test things out. So before that, let's migrate quickly. Manage.py, migrate. Alright, cool, so we didn't have any errors, which is a good sign. So Python manage.py, manage.py run server. And let's open that. Localhost on port 8000. Cool, and we have our hello world message. Alright, so now we're sure that everything is going perfectly and we don't have any bugs. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to copy what's in index.html. So this is our main application. Looks good when it's resized. It's completely responsive. Here we have our Bootswatch theme, which is called Cyborg, but you can choose any theme that you want. You will just go ahead and type Bootswatch CDN and copy the link of whatever theme that you prefer, and you will paste it here. Next, we have the font Awesome, as I told you, for that refreshing icon. Then we have in the title currency converter and a small icon of cash. Next, we have the body with a style of overflow hidden in order to remove the bar, the navigation bar. Then we have a bootstrap class, navbar expand LG, fixed stop, navbar dark, background dark. Okay. Then we'll have a div with a container class, which is wrapping everything. Okay. Currency converter with different styles. Okay. The image, which is inside images folder, which is inside the static or the main static folder. Then we have a select element with a class of form control in order to have this rolling list. These are the different options, the different values that you can choose from. And I've chosen the US dollar to be the default currency by using the selected attribute. Okay. If you will change the selected attribute to any other currency, this will be shown here. Okay. So let me just show you. We'll take that from here and put it to the ruble, the Russian ruble, and we'll refresh that. You will find that it has changed to the ruble. Then we have an input field with a number type, style with the width of 100 in order to take the whole page. Then we have the swap button with a swap button class because we're going to need that in our JavaScript. Then this is very important. This is the exchange rate that is going to be displayed inside the DOM. And that depends on the input that we're going to fetch from the exchange rate API basically. And I gave it a color of aqua in order to be just clear, like neon color. And again, another div with a container class. Basically, it's the same as all of that. Just you can copy and paste the same. Another input field, okay? Then the footer, then the JavaScript file at the bottom. And that's it. It may look a lot, but it's not really. As I showed you, it's all copy and paste from the same code. Alright, the last thing that I want to do is to open JavaScript file. So first off, the variable declaration. And I want to create or declare a variable called C1, which is going to be the first currency. Document.getElementById. And we have the ID for the first currency, currency-1. Just show you. This is it. And I want the same thing, but for the second currency, which is going to be currency-2. I also want for the first amount and the second amount. So I'm going to call that amount1 and amount2. And this has an ID of amount-1 and amount-2. And I need also a variable for the swap button. So const swap is equal to document.getElementById. And we have an ID for that of swap. Last but not least is the exchange rate itself, which is going to be inserted in the DOM dynamically as I showed you. And this has an ID of rate. Okay, so we'll need that in our JavaScript file. So I'm going to call it the rate, and this is equal to document.getElementById. Next thing that I want to do is to create a calculate function, and the calculate function is going to do that basically. It's going to calculate the exchange rate. So I hope that you have signed up and signed into your exchange rate API account, and you will have your API key. And this is the basic request. So we will need the request in our calculate function. So we're going to fetch the exchange rate from the API. So let me create a function here. We'll call it calculate. And this is going to calculate both currency1 and its conversion rate to the second currency. So let me have my first currency. And this is going to be equal to the value of the C1. So C1.value. And I want the same thing for the second currency. So C2.value. And then what will happen? Whenever you will choose any of these currencies, let's say for instance the euro or the Egyptian pound. Once you have chosen the Egyptian pound, this will send an API request asking for the conversion rate of that Egyptian pound to whatever currency you're going to choose below. So we will need to fetch the value of that first currency. So we will fetch, and I will need the API key for that purpose. So let's go to our exchange rate API website, and you will grab your own API key. You will grab all of that, https://v6.exchangerate-api.com, and whatever comes next. We'll copy that. We'll paste it here. And instead of the US dollar, we want to plug in whatever currency you are going to choose. So in order to do that, we will use the $sign and the curly braces, and actually I will need the backticks. So let's change the single quotes to the backticks or the template literals, and this is actually used to utilize it as a placeholder. So as we said, we want whatever the first currency that you are going to choose. And fetch returns a promise, so we handle promises with the .then. So whatever response will come from that API request right, as a parameter, as an input, we want to return this response in a form of JSON format. Then we will have a second promise. So we will handle it also with the dot then, and we will take that data that will come from that response, and what we want to return ultimately is the value of that second amount. So let's actually declare a variable called rate, which will be equal to the conversion rate of that second currency, as I said, and I will take the data and I will access conversion rates with the index of the second currency. Then we want to insert into the DOM whatever the rate of the first currency and its equivalent from the second currency. Okay, if you remember in our HTML file, we said here that we have dynamic rate inserted in DOM based on the exchange rate fetched from the API. So the rate, and I want to insert a text inside that dynamic variable. And for that, we have a property called inner text. So inner text. So we're going to use the template literals again. One of the first currency with the curly braces of currency one. And this is actually going to be equal to whatever is the rate and the second currency. Last but not least, I want the value of that second amount. And it's a simple multiplication operation, and we're going to write that now. Amount 2 dot value is equal to first amount dot value multiplied by the rate. All right, and let's just have to fixed for 2 decimal points. The last thing that is remaining is the event listeners. So we just go below here, event listeners. So let's see, we want different event listeners. We want change. This is called on change. When you're going to change whatever the currency on the list, this will trigger an event. All right, so let's do that for the first currency. C1 add event listener, change event, and we will trigger the calculate function. The same thing for the first amount, but instead of change, we want input, because this is the first amount that you want to input. Change that to input. We want the same thing for the second currency and the second amount. And last but not least, we want the swap button. You will keep the same amount, but you will change the currencies only. So we have here above swap variable, which is equal to document.getElementById with the swap ID. So we will take that. So swap dot add event listener, and we want a click event in this case. All right. And I'm going to use the E6 arrow functions. And what I will do next reminds me of the Towers of Hanoi. If you have seen my functional programming series, I need an intermediary between the first currency and the second currency in order to swap them. So the Egyptian pound, let's say, will be equal to whatever X, and that Egyptian pound is going to be equal to that USD, which means that the second currency is also equal to that intermediary. So let me just create a variable called via, and that via is equal to the value of the first currency, and then the first currency is equal to the second currency, and then the second currency value is equal to that intermediary variable. All right, and we are calling the calculate function at the end, and that's all. Notice that I have changed my API key because I have two API keys. One is verified and the second one is unverified. So I've used my verified one. So it's not a big deal. You will have your own and it will work perfectly. If you will click on swap now, you have swapped between the ruble and the USD, and you will get here the conversion rate. 1 USD is equal to 75.97 rubles. We can swap that again. 1 ruble is equal to 0. Blah blah blah. So let's also change the amount. Let's say 450 rubles, and automatically this will be converted to $5.92. and we can swap that. So you will have the amount of the first currency is unchanged while the currency itself has changed. So $450 are equal to 34,190.64. So that's it, guys. I think it's an awesome project and I hope that you have enjoyed it. This is an application that you can really use in your day-to-day activities. So once again, thank you very much, guys, for watching. If you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. And if you want me to help you in a particular project that you're struggling with, please let me know and we can do that together. I would like to work with you, not just for you to watch my videos, but I would like to interact personally with you. If you have a project that you would like to realize, or even if you have an idea of a project, let me know and we can see how we can build it together. All right. So yeah, take it easy, guys, and I will see you in the next video.